Hey, welcome everybody to the 40 Finance channel. Today we're going to take a look at how the QQQ has changed over the past few years, going by their top holdings. So we'll step back sort of pre-COVID into 2019 and see how it's evolved over 2020, 2021, and of course we are in the back half of 2022 as I record this. So one of the things that I like about the QQQ and some other ETFs is that it's market cap weighted. So the bigger a stock's market cap is, the more shares that the QQQ holds. And that means during the good times anyway, if the top performers are doing well, then it has a compounding effect, right? Because it's top heavy with those big names. And of course, you know, that can go the other way too, where if the top 5 or 6 stocks have a dramatic loss, then you're going to see a dramatic loss in the performance of the ETF as well. But what you also find that kind of prevents some of this is that there's a shift in the top holdings over time. Now, sometimes that shift is just a couple percentage points. Sometimes an entire stock can be deleted from the ETF as a whole, but typically the biggest moves are made within those top 10 names, right? Most market cap weighted ETFs are going to have a high density of their top 10 to 15 names. You know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% of the entire fund is going to be in those top 10 or 15 names, and that's exactly what you see here with the QQQ. All right, let's kick things off and see where things stand today. Today is October 7th, and you can see we are on Seeking Alpha. By the way, before I jump into this video, Seeking Alpha is still having their special sale of $99 for an entire 12 months of their premium access. My affiliate link is in the description. So if you like some of the stuff that you see on the screen here today, check out that link in the description, potentially support the channel. Appreciate it very much. Now let's dig into these holdings. All right, and on the top of the Seeking Alpha overview, they kind of do the breakdown of sectors, but this is across the entire ETF. So one thing that I always mention here on this channel, because a lot of people overlook it, they think QQQ is a 100% tech fund, and that is not true at all. You can see the technology does, if you're going to go true sectors, technology does make up almost 50%, but I think the biggest takeaway here is don't let someone tell you that the QQQ is only technology, because facts are facts, and that is 50%, but you know, that's actually less than half in this case at 46%. Hopefully you can see these numbers. Let me see if I can make them a little bit bigger. But I'll read them off to you, even if you can't read them. Top 10 holdings, and this is as of September 30th on Seeking Alpha's view. I'm going to bring this up. So there you go. September 30th. We got Apple, number 1 at 13%, Microsoft at 10%, Amazon inching up to 7%, Tesla about 5%. There's 2 different classes of Alphabet shares, so we just kind of combine those two, and that equals 7%. So technically, I think if you actually added up all the decimal points, Alphabet would be the 3rd largest holding if you put those 2 shares together. Meta, 2.7%, NVIDIA, 2.5%, Pepsi, bet you wouldn't have guessed that, Pepsi at 2.24%, and Costco, 2%. So obviously Pepsi and Costco stray pretty far away from the technology concept. Not that they don't have technology within their company, but I think most people would not classify those 2 stocks as technology companies. Now you add up these top 10 holdings and you get 52% of the fund. So 10 stocks out of 103. So the QQQ is the NASDAQ top 100 stocks. In theory, I know that there's 103 there, but Alphabet, for example, is 1 company and you have 2 shares. I haven't looked recently if there's any other companies that are similar. You had situations where like Xilinx was being bought out, I think, by NVIDIA. So Xilinx was in the top 100, but it was eventually going to be replaced with just NVIDIA. So those are the kind of things that make the number of holdings of 103 exceed sort of the moniker of the top 100 NASDAQ stocks. All right, so let's go back in history a little bit to October 2019. This was pre-COVID times. And let's take a look where the top 10 holdings stood at that time. Now, you might wonder, why am I doing this in an article format? And the honest version is because it's very hard to track the holdings of the NASDAQ. Even their own website doesn't have a historical like CSV or something that you can download and see the changes over time. I'm going to start downloading it myself and make my own little timesheet, because I talk about the Qs and TQQ all the time on this channel. But for now, we have to go back to when somebody wrote about the fund in that certain year to really figure out how those top 10 holdings went. And I like these Seeking Alpha articles because not only is it the platform I'm on all the time, but they usually take screenshots, which helps to kind of vilify, you know, is this data accurate, or, you know, as opposed to somebody just writing it in. You also get some kind of neat features if you are a premium member. Any article that's in Seeking Alpha, they do it's not really like a timestamp, but they actually write on here what was the recommendation and the price at the time. So this was October 24th, 2019. You know, this particular author was saying sell the Qs, and then the price of publication was $193. Since that time, it's up 40%. 42.94% total return versus the S&P was up 21%. So even now, as we see how the Qs are melting down a little bit with this Fed news, this column, these two columns right here, tell you why I love the Qs as much as I do, and I think they will outperform the S&P 500 for many years to come, you know, depending on how the S&P 500 adjusts their strategy. Okay, so I'm going to skip all of the words here, and I'm going to scroll down to an image that lets us see the top 25 QQQ holdings. And if I click on this, it should enlarge. Okay, yes, it did enlarge, and I will go through this. I'm sure it's hard to see because it's still small print. But back on October of 2019, Apple was number one, just like it is today. 11.6%, so slightly lower back then than it was today. Microsoft in at number two still. Amazon 9.3%, but we have to add up our Googles. Google was 8.7%. So Amazon was indeed the third highest holding, followed by Google. Then we get into Facebook, Intel, Comcast, Cisco, Pepsi, Costco. And if I just eyeball these numbers and kind of add them together, I think you're going to cut off somewhere in this Pepsi Cisco line. So Costco would not have been up there, best I can tell by eyeballing these numbers. So the takeaway being, of course, that Intel is no longer in the top 10. Comcast is no longer in the top 10. Cisco is not in the top 10 either, okay, from where we stand today, and that is back, this article anyway, is back in 2019. All right, same scenario here for 2020. Closest article I could find to like a year over year was August 27th of 2020, and this is obviously after COVID had come out, and 2020 was lockdown year. This is another cool feature for Seeking Alpha. If you see that black dot there, I have to hover away for you to see it. They actually put on the QQQ chart where this article was published. And the point of me showing you this chart in particular is because you can see that at this point in August, we are clearly on the upswing in the market. We know about the COVID bounce back. We are exceeding the peak of 2020 pre-COVID, which was about approximately $231. When this was written, you were at the 293 mark. So you compare that to today, we are minus 7%, total return of minus 6%. And look at the S&P with all the oil and gas stocks, they are up 5% since 2020. So it's interesting to look at, to think about August 2020 feels like a long time ago. And the market has melted down that much that the Qs are minus 7% from where they were in August 2020, and we still had 2021 to go, right? I think the market peaked around January. Anyhow, scrolling down, same thing. Let's see what this person has. They have an image. Now, they did a little markup on theirs. The point of the article was same thing I was telling you. QQQ is not all IT or tech. So just ignore this red. It has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Apple, back on 7/31/2020 is when this image is dated. Apple was up to 14.49% of the Qs. So pretty high. That must have been around Apple's peak. Amazon, clear number 2 at basically 11%. They passed Microsoft, who's been number 2 seemingly forever, 10.76%. You add your Googles together and you get about 7%. Facebook was 4%. Tesla made its entry into the top 10 holdings at 3.16%. NVIDIA 265%, PayPal just under 2%, and Adobe just under 2%. So on this particular list, PayPal and Adobe, who were in the top 10 in 2020, they are no longer in the top 10. Now, both of them and Intel are still in the top 100 NASDAQ stocks. They're just not in the top 10. All right, let's flip ahead to 2021. And again, I'm looking for images, so I realize we're getting a lot of different articles here. It does give you sort of an idea of the type of things that people post on this site. But I found August of 2021, so just a little bit over a year ago in 2021, well into the down cycle that we all experienced in 2021. And if we compare, just out of curiosity, if you would have bought one Q and one S&P on August 25th of 2021, you would be minus 27.14% on your Qs, and you would have been minus 18% on your S&Ps. And what's interesting about that, at least to me, is as much as tech stocks get dinged in this current environment, which seemingly gets worse every day. I think the Qs are down 3% today. It's not just tech stocks, okay, that are getting crushed under the weight of this exit from the markets, right? Everything is going down. Literally everything is going down. That's not the topic of this video, but this S&P 500 number proves that not everything is brighter in another index, right? So just keep that in mind as you're making your investing decisions. Let's see what they have for charts down here. Scrolling. It's got to be on, it must be this. Okay, so this article is comparing Qs versus VOOO. So that's the nature of this picture. And it doesn't look, this is not going to open for me. I'll just go ahead and read it off in case you can't read it. In 7/31 of 2021, Apple 11.19%. Microsoft retook the number 2 position at almost 10%. Amazon 8.3%. Alphabet, you add them together, you're about 7.8%. Facebook at 4%. Tesla 3.7%. NVIDIA 3.43%. PayPal 2.3%, Adobe 2.08%. So I think we have the same omissions from 21 into 22. PayPal and Adobe are no longer top 10 stocks in the QQQ. Okay, so one quick review of where we are today. Apple 13%, Microsoft 10%. We have to add our alphabets up and it gets you roughly 7%. So Alphabet is third. Amazon at 6.86%, which, to be honest, considering the problems that they've had with trying to expand their business during COVID, as far as costs associated with hiring, they did a lot of technological infrastructure changes for their consumer business. I really like how Amazon's setting up for the long term here, but I'm surprised that they've hung on to this number 4 spot, not because they're not a good company, but it's not been a pretty 2 or 3 years of investment in Amazon. Tesla, from nowhere up to 5% as of today in the QQQ is one of the more impressive things I think anyone will see in the stock market. And Meta, 2.73%, that one is probably more surprising than Amazon because of how badly they've been crushed. Fact of the matter is, though, the Meta is still a huge market cap stock, and they are still literally printing profits. We'll see if they can engage in that next stage of growth for their business. NVIDIA, PepsiCo, and Costco. I think of those three, NVIDIA is the most interesting. Obviously, their world has changed a lot over the last 12 months, but they are hanging on. 2.51% puts them at the 8th position. And if you were wondering, would NVIDIA fall out, it looks like Costco at 2.07%. And PepsiCo at 2.24. It looks like NVIDIA still has an edge before they would be knocked out of the top 10 if their stock kept going down. All right, so bottom line, this is really just a history passion project for me because I love the Qs and I just like seeing how those top 10 holdings change. But the takeaway for you, if you're new to the Qs or market cap weighted ETFs in general, is one of their beauties is that they change when stocks get bigger or smaller, right? It's all assigned to market cap. So when Tesla goes on the epic run that it obviously did since 2019, eventually, if it's part of the NASDAQ, it's going to get in to that top 10 holdings, or certainly the top 100 holdings. And without doing anything, you're going to get that small slice of Tesla. And while you won't inherit the same returns as somebody who bought Tesla, way back when for $5 or whatever it premiered as, you are going to be able to get a piece of that rise of a company, assuming that it was listed in the NASDAQ to start with. Now, the flip side, of course, if you think about where Apple is today and has been for some time, if Apple comes out and disappoints, and we've got some big Apple quarters coming up, right? We've got fourth quarter, holiday shopping, new iPhone, lot of pressure on them. But what is the likelihood that Apple completely tanks? Probably zero, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had a bad report and lost 10, 15, maybe even 20% on the worst news possible. I don't particularly see it. But if Apple does go down, then you are going to see a decline in the QQQ as well. And you could potentially see Microsoft move into that top spot. It would mean that Microsoft would have to arguably outperform, Apple underperform. But these are the little shifts that happen in an ETF like this. It can take a lot of pressure off making individual stock picks. And at least for me, I had plenty of stock picks go bad on me from 2020 into 2022. So I'm really tripling down on my QQQ investment for the long term, at least to add that stability to my portfolio. Everybody's got a different opinion. Everybody's got a different favorite. But for me, particularly right now, as stock prices are coming back down to earth, I'm all in on the Qs. It's the only thing that I am buying, conceivably over the next year or so, just to take advantage and build up a healthy foundation of that. That's what I'm doing with my portfolio. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this look back on the top 10 holdings of the QQQ. Don't forget, before you go, check out that special offer for Seeking Alpha, $99 for a year. You also get a 7-day free trial. So you do have to enter your credit card, but it does not get charged until, let's just say, that 7th day. I don't know how they're looking at that 7th day. So maybe try it out, cancel on the 6th day if you don't like it. But I have a feeling once you get in there, you're really going to love a lot of the features. All right, hope everybody's having a great day. We'll see you on the next video.